Good evening, this is Luke Herefield with the Oscar Expert.
Hey up, guys.
Off to a good start.
We're at the Cannes Film Festival. We're rooming, so we may as well do a collab.
Indeed.
Right?
I can't believe it's taken us like 7 days to actually finally sit down and do a video together.
And what better movie to talk about than May, December, the new movie from Todd Haynes, who you may know as the director of Carol. He's also done many other films like Far From Heaven. I had no idea what to expect from this movie, but I think that we all need to throw our expectations out the window. Right from like the opening credits, I was like, I do not know what I'm getting in for.
This movie, it really caught me off guard as well. In the first 5 minutes, one very notable moment where Julianne Moore goes to open a fridge. And then you're like, well, this is not what I expected at all. I'm down for it.
I was slapping the shit out of my knees during like that. It was like the best joke. It was wild.
It's going to be a meme, that, for sure.
Yeah. The way that the score sets the tone in the opening credits. Huge, sweeping, melodramatic score.
Indeed. It's very soapy, very over the top. What makes it even more effective is the juxtaposition of how mundane the stuff is we're watching. And the things that they decide to put the real dramatic piano notes on, like opening a fridge and stuff, it is ridiculous.
The score has its own comedy to it. Like, Absolutely. A lot of times scenes will end with the characters just not doing much, and then the score will start playing, and it's like funny. The movie is surprisingly funny, and the style really threw me off because I feel like I've never seen a movie stylized this way. I think it's like really kind of brilliant, especially in the way that it references the 90s.
Yes.
And in like that sort of campy way. And the word camp gets overused all the time. You know, we've had people describe House of Gucci as camp. I don't like that. This movie really, truly earns it. And I think it explores those styles in an actually like deep and interesting way.
Such a palate cleanser type movie as well. We've been watching a lot of stuffy movies. This one just came just at the right time. It was a real sort of laugh-tastic pick-me-up. Natalie Portman's playing this actress, Elizabeth Berry, and she's gone to Savannah, Georgia to meet Julianne Moore, who went to jail back in the 90s. Basically got involved with a teenager when she was an adult. Natalie Portman's studying Julianne Moore for the role for this indie movie. There's a level of superficiality to it in that she's just going on method actor, copying her, like being a fly on the wall in her life and seeing what's going on. But her presence in the family brings up a lot of repressed feelings, particularly from husband, who was the lover. He's grown up now, he's like 36, but still there's a big old age gap, played by Charles Melton. A lot of interesting topics and repressed feelings come to the surface. It's very entertaining, but also uncomfortable as well in certain places.
A lot of the scenes are filmed in a really bizarre way. Like, there is one scene where Todd Haynes just completely obliterates the 180-degree rule at a dinner scene. There are a couple amazing mirror shots, and they just hold on the actors, and we witness them do, like, amazing work. The one image from this movie where Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman are both looking in the mirror, that scene is amazing.
It is, yeah. It's really fun to just sort of watch Natalie Portman just like slowly mimicking Julianne Moore. Lots of like little detailed moments where you can see the wheels turning in her head of how she's like, you know, getting into her head.
Todd Haynes' regular cinematographer, Edward Lockman, is not back, which had me sort of skeptical, especially because the first few images just looked much less colorful than, you know, Carol or Far From Heaven. But I think the style here really works. There are, you know, very colorful moments, but I didn't need it to look like his other movies. Whatever it's doing here, especially with like the 90s references visually, is really working. I feel like we're getting to a point where the 90s is so far in the past that now looking back on it, artists are trying to kind of make sense of it and interpret it in a different way or bring it back or pay homage. And May December, I think, maybe in a few years or a decade or so, maybe it'll be looked at as one of like the key pieces of art in how movies are dissecting the 90s, or maybe it'll even be a trailblazer in that, because it just feels very stylistically singular. I don't even know how to describe it.
It is kind of in its own bracket.
It kind of captures that fascination that people had then with like tabloid drama.
Scandal.
Kind of versus the more sobering interpretation of like scandals that we have now, where it's like if there's a scandal, it's like, oh my God, like we need to not talk to that person. We need to send shit to their doorstep. But in the 90s, it's like, I'm secretly like super fascinated by that. And the movie kind of explores that in a really interesting way. There are 3 amazing performances in this movie. Natalie Portman, wonderfully curious in the role.
Absolutely captivating to watch. She has more screen time than Julianne Moore.
Yeah, I'll call her the lead.
Yeah, she gets this one scene, it's like a monologue from the movie that she's practicing, the big dramatic moment, and she's like doing Julianne Moore's lisp and everything in it, and she's just going for it. I really want to know how many takes it took, because it's a long take. It's just one long take where she's, again, looking in the mirror, doing this monologue. It's interesting to see the metamorphosis.
That moment's interesting because it's like, is she becoming the character? It's more like, how is she playing this role? How is she going to interpret this role? And the weird off-kilter way in which it's done is like, There's
a scene where she's talking to her classroom and she's talking about doing a sex scene. She's saying how at one point is like, am I pretending to have pleasure? Am I pretending not to have pleasure? Is this in service of the character she's playing? Or is this just her being a sociopathic bitch in moments? Like, it's really hard to tell. Like, the line is so blurred when you're watching a performance, and that's why it's a fascinating performance.
And Julianne Moore reaffirms her specialty with like weird, over dramatic crying. That character is really interesting, especially when she gets challenged, like to watch how Julianne Moore reacts.
She's quite steely, but there's a fragility there as well. In the more intimate moments here, when she does get all vulnerable and weepy, it's somehow both like sad, but also kind of funny at the same time.
And then Charles Melton is like the biggest surprise here.
Yeah.
I mean, most people will probably come for Natalie Portman, Julianne Moore, but you will stay for Charles Melton.
Yeah.
As with every performance, there's something like bizarre underneath the surface. Early on, there's a scene where he's walking with Natalie Portman, and I'm like, the way he's walking, like, is this like a child? Like, deep down, is there a child in there? He gets some of the best scenes in the movie. Like, if I were to choose the best performance, it's possible that I might even pick him.
And there's a scene where he's like smoking weed with his son, and he can't do it, and it's just like he skipped that whole self-discovery phase of youth, and the way Charles Melton conveys that, it's really, really something special.
Yeah, this movie was like crazy and funny and delicious, and I think really substantive. Like, I really want to dive back in.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it again. It's probably the most fun I've had in a screening at Cannes this year. Like, the audience was lapping it up.
I would give the movie a 9 out of 10.
I'm feeling like 8, maybe 8.5. That's probably where I sit with it. Highly recommend it, yeah.
Now we should talk about awards.
Yes!
Shouldn't we?
We should. This is what they came for.
Now that you're done with the boring old review, you can get on to the only thing
Let's
you care
talk
about.
some Oscars.
So Netflix bought this, which definitely kind of factors into how we think this movie will do.
Indeed.
Some people are disappointed they bought it because they want to see it in theaters, and I hope that people get a chance to. But either way, I think Netflix buying it means that the awards potential is there, or it will be like maximized. It's weird because the movie is weird, so
yes, it is.
I don't know if it feels like it'll get into Best Picture.
Yeah.
I think that it will age well throughout the year. I think that people will revisit it and kind of bring it back into the discussion. So in that way, I kind of hope Netflix releases it maybe October, November, so people can have more time to digest it. But there's got to be potential here, at least with the actors. Like, I can't tell if this movie gets nothing, if this movie gets like The Mastered, or if it can get into director without picture, or if it gets screenplay. Like, there's a lot of ways this could go.
It's weird to describe because it all at once does feel like an Oscar-y type movie, especially like for the performances and stuff. But also at the same time, because it is so peculiar, this movie, I can also see it missing, just like being goose-egged as well. Would Portman go lead? And
I think Portman goes lead, and Moore
Julianne
goes supporting.
Yeah, that'd make more sense. And it'd be nice to see Charles Melton at least be in the conversation, because everyone's gonna be like talking about Portman and Julianne Moore, you know, the two already Best Actress winning actors, you know, in this movie. So, but it'd be nice to see Charles Melton, like, at least be in the discussion. I'm not sure if he will secure a nom.
I think he'll be in the discussion. Like, here's the weird thing. I can see various awards bodies doing different things with the actors, where like maybe the Golden Globes nominate 2 of them, and the BAFTAs get in like just Charles Melton, and then the Critics' Choice nominates like none of it. I don't know, some weird stuff could happen, but I think they all will have to be in the conversation, and I think they all may get critics' attention. Even like Charles Melton might actually get singled out by critics.
Maybe, kind of the quiet assassin of this movie in a way. So.
And I've heard a lot of people who kind of think that he might be the best, or he's the most surprising aspect of the
Absolutely.
movie. I thought immediately the score, lock, but it's actually not entirely original music. It is a reworking of a score from Michael Legrand from The Go-Between. Michael Zavaros is the person who reworked it. I mean, I feel like the reworking or the utilization of the score is still Oscar-worthy, like in my opinion, and apparently there was some original music, but it may be deemed ineligible because it's not original music.
Do you think it has a shot screenplay?
Yeah, I think Todd Haynes is kind of the name that people want to honor here, and the screenplay is not done by him. So I don't know if that hurts it, but the script is really interesting. I mean, it could get a lone screenplay nomination.
I mean, Todd Haynes didn't even get the nom for Carol,
He did not get the nom for Carol.
No, so if you can't get the nom for Carol, which feels more of an Oscar-y movie, then I feel less doubtful he could get in for this. But I would love to see them entertain the idea of that.
I think even if the movie didn't get into picture, there's a world where he can like Bennett Miller Foxcatcher it. I do think that he could sneak in even if we don't expect it. They owe him. And I hope they know that by now. It's definitely a wild card. I mean, I guess there's a world where it does get Picture and a bunch of nominations, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure that seems too likely to me. I don't know.
It's just we got a lot of movies to still see. Well, I think it's off to a good start. Yeah, it's not one I feel confident saying like, oh yeah, it's a Best Picture nominee.
I mean, it's not like it has Carol reviews exactly, but I think that people's appreciation for the movie might grow as it hits other festivals in the fall.
It lingers in your mind, this movie. Like, it stays with you.
That's basically the awards take that I have.
Indeed, we did the thing.
We did.
We did the thing.
Shout out to Luke Herefield. He is a YouTuber, by the way, if you don't know, and you can go subscribe to his channel. The link is in the description to that.
For all you watching, if you aren't subscribed to the Oscar Expert and Brother Bro, what's wrong with you?
Watching a video without subscribing to the channel, that's a crime.
It's rude.
It's a crime.
It's just rude.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
Is your relationship breaking the law? And I'm just hearing your little playful outro music now.
Yeah. Exactly.